Hello everyone, my name's Lisa Garnham. I'm a lecturer in social policy here at the University of Strathclyde, and I'm here with Fiona McHardy, who is here to discuss what our new community research cafes are with me. So she's going to ask me a few questions about what the cafes are, and I'm hopefully going to answer them so that you can find out a little bit more about them. Fiona, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Hi Lisa, it's great to be here this morning. My name's Fiona McHardy and I'm a research fellow at the Scottish Health Equity Research Unit, and I'm really excited to hear about this new initiative that's taking place at Strathclyde University. First of all, Lisa, I'd like to kind of understand a bit about what is the idea behind the cafes?
Thanks, Fiona. So the idea behind the cafes is that they will run 4 times a year over 2026 and 2027. They run on a drop-in basis for a couple of hours, either in the morning or the afternoon. And really, they're a kind of informal space where we've got tea, coffee, biscuits, and cake to just sit down and informally chat about your research questions, your questions about evaluation, and your questions about information and monitoring. The idea behind the cafes really is that we as academics know that there are lots and lots of people out there who have kind of questions that are niggling at them, burning questions they've got, issues that they really want to kind of discuss with someone who's got expertise in research. And the cafes are an informal space where you can just come, sit down, grab a cuppa, and chat to us about research in a really informal environment. Where you don't need to book in advance, you don't need to kind of email somebody in advance to know who you're meeting. It's really just to come and talk about research and for us to support you in any way that we can with the questions that you have.
And who are the cafes intended to be for, Lisa?
So, really, anyone who is working or volunteering for an organisation that carries out any kind of research or evaluation. The idea is that if you're working maybe for a third sector organisation, for a charity, or for a community led organisation, or even for a local authority, and you feel like it would be helpful to have a chat with an expert on a certain method or a certain research approach, then we're really here to have that conversation with you. The cafes are being generously funded by the Social Policy Association, which means that we can have the door open to anyone who wants to come along and chat with us. So if you have questions about research and you have an organisation who can support you to do that research, then the cafes are for you.
And I guess what kind of questions and concepts are you expecting people to bring along to these cafes?
I mean, you can really come along with any question that you have about research. I think there are 4 main areas that we think that we can kind of support you with. So the first one is if you've got questions kind of broadly, you've got an idea for a bit of research, or maybe even you've got a problem that you can see in your community that you think needs a bit of research, then we can kind of hear what it is that you are planning to do or that you think you might need to do and give you a little bit of guidance around a broad approach that you might take, some methods that you might consider, or some ways in which you might go about that research. So if you've got kind of general questions or like the spark of a first idea, we can help you with that. Secondly, if you've got some really particular questions about methods, so for example, if you're at the point where you know what your research problem is, but you're not really sure the best way to go about gathering the data that you need, we can answer questions on methods. Many of the academics who will be supporting the cafes have expertise in lots of different kinds of research methods. So they might be interviews, focus groups, they might be creative methods, they might be deliberative or democratic methods. We can talk to you about all these different kinds of ways of gathering data, the kinds of data that they create, and the ways that you can analyze that data. So we can definitely answer specific methods questions as well. And then thirdly, we can also support you with, if you have questions about how to kind of share your research findings, ways of sharing them, particularly with policymakers. So the cafes are being run in association with the Centre for Health Policy, and we have lots of connections to different policy audiences across Scotland and the UK, and indeed across the world. So if you have a particular audience in mind for your research, we can also help you with how to frame it, with how to produce it, and with how to get it out to those audiences. And then fourthly, we can also help you if you think you've got a bigger research project that you're interested in running that maybe requires more long-term involvement of an academic. We can help you look for funding sources for that as well. So these are the kinds of questions we can help you with, but we're open to challenge. So if you have questions, bring them to the cafes. We'll see if we can help.
Great, Lisa. And I guess outside of the cafes? What other kind of support is going to be offered by the university?
There are lots of different ways in which we can support you beyond the cafes, and the cafes are really just a space where we can get to know each other and tell you a little bit about other kinds of support that we can offer. But I'll run you through a few here. So first of all, as we run the cafes over the next couple of years, I'm sure that there'll be questions that we're asked again and again and again. And to support people who maybe can't come along to the cafes, we're going to be recording a series of videos like this one that will address those frequently asked questions. And then hopefully people will be able to watch them and share them with each other to get those kind of insights that other folk are getting from coming along to the cafes. So there's that. On top of that, of course, there are lots and lots of different ways that we can support you with actual research. So, for example, we can support you with applying for funding for a PhD student to join you for up to 3 years to carry out a research project. We can support you with funding applications for larger bits of research that are done more collaboratively with an academic. And we can even support you in hosting our master's students on placement. So many of our programs here in the School of Social Work and Social Policy have placement-based dissertations that the students undertake. And that means that a student could come to you for several weeks over the summer and carry out a research project on your behalf. So there are lots and lots of different ways that we can support you, and come along to the cafes and talk to us about it, and we'll maybe run you through what might work best for you.
That sounds really great, Lisa. I guess it's a question for me about what's the catch?
Good question, Fiona. So I know it does sound pretty good, and you might be wondering what the catch is. I mean, fundamentally, we have been really, really lucky to get this funding from the Social Policy Association, which means we're able to say there isn't really a catch. So the Social Policy Association are funding the rooms that we're booking to host the cafes, and they're also paying for our catering, which means that we're then able to come along and give our time to chat with you about your needs for your research. I think it's really important to emphasise that what the cafes are designed for in the main is for us to help you with your research, not for us to develop our own research ideas or academic research projects. And one of the reasons that we're doing this is the University of Strathclyde is a place of useful learning. We do like to make ourselves useful, but I know that we're not always accessible. And so the idea behind the cafes is to really broaden out our accessibility, to mean that people can actually come and chat to us in an informal way without having to find the right academic and send that email and wait for a reply. So that's what we're hoping the cafes will achieve, and we really hope to see you there.